what do you think happens now? Minneapolis, Minnesota, beautiful little community. Added to the list, they haven't had a school shooting there in a decade or so in Minnesota. 2 dead kids, 8 and 10, 17 wounded, attending Mass. Let me bring in some better minds to try to get our hands around what matters in this. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Gagliano, clinical social worker Darcy Sterling, NewsNation correspondent-at-large Geraldo Rivera. Thanks, each and all of you, for coming in to discuss this. Gags, in terms of the familiarity of the murderer in this, why do you think it is so many fit this profile?
Well, Chris, they fit the similar profile like this. They're usually young men, and they're usually disinfected, disenfranchised people. And this, reading through this manifesto, looking at the videos online that were purportedly from this shooter, it seems like a tragic, tragic life. And that's what happens. People become disconnected. And Chris, you and I have talked before about how can law enforcement get out in front of this? I mean, look, the guy had a YouTube channel and he posts these videos. The internet is vast and dark, and obviously there's a limited amount of law enforcement, and to track people down, we have privacy protections and all that in this country. It makes it very difficult to do. But to your point, see something, say something. You mean to tell me that no one that was in contact with this young man at a particular time of his life where he was struggling and writing all these hateful, the screeds, the stuff he placed on the magazines for the weapons, the barrel of the weapons. I mean, he didn't have a hateful ideology for one ideology. He had an ideological bent with so many different people. And that's what we find, Chris. Mental illness usually attached to these. They're sociopaths or psychopaths, and the fact that that hate runs deep.
Hey, Doc, first of all, everybody, you should remember Dr. Darcy Sterling. She is a friend of mine, and she is someone I lean on as a clinician as well as a source. And let me ask you the tough question is, what is it about us? Oh, Vince is calling me back, Chloe's dad. Hey, Vince, I just called you to let you know that I meant what I said. Anything I can do for you guys, I'm a call away. Let me finish the show and I'll call you back, all right?
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Vince, God bless. I'll call you right back. Got to take his call. So the really hard question is this, Darcy. It keeps happening here, and we change nothing. What is the psychological analysis on that?
The problem is, Chris, we can intervene. This is such an easy beginning of a fix. We need to screen for mental illness at every level of our education in school. We need to be, these screenings are so easy to implement. They're inexpensive. They take less than 10 minutes. You bring the kids into the gym, you check them for scoliosis twice in their lifetime. Why aren't we screening for mental health illness? This was not someone who popped off out of nowhere. This was a critically mentally ill person for a very long time. Of their own words, they struggled with suicidal ideation. And, yes, it is very, very distracting, all the ideology, but ideology is not something, it doesn't permeate people unless they're vulnerable. This was clearly someone, as a former FBI agent mentioned, this is clearly somebody that was likely alone, disconnected, out of relationship, and it's those circumstances that make people vulnerable for this type of information to radicalize.
In your experience, Doc, what is the chance that no one in this person's life had any idea how sideways they were?
0.
Right? I mean, that's the part we got to deal with. You can't criminalize it. I'm not saying you got to punish people who don't say something. But you got to know, right? Somebody had to know something, right?
What is our civic responsibility? Did this person have followers on their YouTube account? Of course they did.
Yeah,
so what is our civic responsibility? I mean, all the social media companies, they have the firewalls that they're behind with the laws that we can't sue them. We don't hold them accountable. None of it is their fault. But what about the followers? At some point, the buck has to stop with us.
Geraldo, help me with my cynicism. You know me as a ridiculous optimist, but I don't know what I'm doing with these stories. anymore. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. You know, well, just report the facts. The facts are everywhere. We get them in like 20 minutes now. It used to take us days to figure that. It's all so familiar. We know where to look. We know who to call. You know, you get all the facts, the who, what, where, when. It's the why. It's whether people care enough. What do you make of these and what we've seen in the evolution or devolution of them as an American story?
You broke my heart tonight, Chris. You're one of my heroes, and it sounded to me that you'd finally said, basta, you know, enough, I can't take it anymore. You can't, we can't, none of us can. But we've got to keep up the struggle. And I think there's a couple of things. I mean, this was a cruel, cowardly, hateful, disgusting, sick individual. I would go on to say more. But then I heard Pope Leo, who spent time in Minneapolis, you know, making sure that everybody knew that not only was he praying for the victims and their families in Minneapolis, but that he was guarding against cynicism, you know, guarding against hopelessness. I think that we'll never get meaningful gun legislation. You're right about that. You know, I was with President Trump on a couple of days after the Parkland school massacre, and he visited with the First Lady the victims in the hospital and described in great detail, sincerely, really deeply touched, how chewed up the survivors were by these heavy weapons in the school. And I said, well, let's pass a juvenile automatic weapons ban. And he said, no, well, we'll see. And ultimately, they did not. They took the NRA position. But we can't give up, can never, ever give up. I think there's two things quickly. One is you've mentioned family responsibility. Now, remember the case of the parents who were held responsible for the school shooting of their child perpetrated. I think that concept of communal responsibility, familial responsibility, we've got to spread that around. And those parents should be questioned very sharply. The friends, the associates. It's a police work to find out who was associated with this sick bastard when he was writing this incendiary shit that he was putting down there. And the other thing is you've got to have an armed guard in front of the synagogues in New York have it. You've got to have one outside. If there was one outside, maybe it would have stop this. Those are two things,
yeah, look,
but we can't give
I don't have any problem with that, but I'll tell you, when I went on The View, I'll let you guys go with this. Darcy, thank you. Jimmy, thank you. Geraldo, as always, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.